All of their ideas and opinions are those of their own. We as a group at Truth Force are not responsible for anything that's said or done here today. Okay, coming up next, we have a lady by the name of Kathy Martin who lives here in Norman. She's a certified engineer, and she's going to speak about some fracking issues. She's been an expert witness in litigation involving environmental law across the country, and she has a lot to offer us. So please welcome Kathy Martin.
Nope, that's it. Hey, thanks. You know, in a couple of months, we're going to pray for a cold breeze like this, so just enjoy it while you can. I got involved in activism about 1997, fighting CAFOs in the Panhandle when Seaboard brought in a bunch of hog farms. And I've worked all over the country against corporate agriculture, trying to get them to protect our groundwater and our surface water and our air. And somewhere along that journey, I learned about hydraulic fracturing. And my background is I'm a bachelor's in petroleum from OU, and I have a master's in civil. So I understood a little bit about the complications of hydraulic fracturing. And the people that I met along the way started out in Dallas, Texas. A lot of folks fighting the fracking in the Barnett Shale. Does anybody here know what hydraulic fracturing is? All right, you know, we're talking about horizontal wells. I mean, we're Oklahoma. We know about oil and gas wells, right? And this is not vertical wells. This is not vertical fracking. This is horizontal wells. This is taking a hold of a formation, splitting it up into much smaller units than what you're used to with vertical oil and gas production, and sending out 1 and 2 mile long stringers in various directions from a central point, and then fracking each of those the horizontal sections, okay? And what happens is, whereas traditional hydraulic fracturing was about 60,000 gallons for a frac, it was vertical fracking. This horizontal is called high volume slick water fracking. Is it too much? Oh, okay. Well, these guys are the pros. High volume slick water fracking means that each frac takes 2 to 4 million gallons, okay, of fresh water. Each well string is going to be fracked 4 to 10 times. Each well site will have 4 to 8 wells. So you can see that quite quickly one particular well pad can represent 40, 50, 60 million gallons of fresh water, hundreds of thousands of gallons of chemicals. When I first started talking about hydraulic fracturing, the oil and gas industry said, well, it's just 2% chemicals. So when I started doing the math and I said, well, that's like 500,000 gallons of chemicals, pure chemicals, then all of a sudden it was like, oh, no, it's like it's 0.5%. But still 0.5% of 40 to 50 million gallons per well pad is still hundreds of thousands of gallons of pure chemical and chemicals that they don't want to tell you about. Okay, so all across the country, I've worked with folks in the Barnett Shale, down in that's in Dallas-Fort Worth area, down in Eagle Ford Shale, which is out by Austin, over in Pennsylvania with the Marcellus Shale, Ohio. Has anybody here seen the movie Gasland? All right, I've met some of those people. You know, we see these documentaries, and you know, we live in town, and sometimes we think, oh, I don't know if those people are really real. You know, they are actually really real. I have been in some of their kitchens and looked at some of their water and looked at their animals that they have to try to care for under very, very poor conditions. You know, in the state of Pennsylvania, the Marcellus Shale takes up almost 2/3 of the state, okay? The industry is proposing to drill 90,000 wells. Okay, 8,000 of those wells are already drilled, and there's so many significant problems from that. You know, people ill, people dying too soon, animals dying, rashes, the whole 9 yards, okay? The only reason why the other 90,000 haven't been drilled because the infrastructure, the gathering lines hasn't been built yet, all the pipelines. But last year, one of the pipeline gathering companies was given a public utility status. And if you don't know what that means they were given eminent domain, even though they were not a public utility, just the gathering lines. And so a lot of things are going on in Pennsylvania that is taking away people's right for their private property. And I can't say enough about that. There's people that will speak very strongly about that. So what happens when somebody wants to drill on your property? You either have own the mineral rights or you don't. If you don't own the mineral rights, you have absolutely no control with what they do. They can just come on your property. They can drill the well anywhere they want to. We're talking about 90,000 wells being drilled anywhere they want to, all right? That's in Pennsylvania. Of course, in the Bakken Shale up in Wyoming, they've got several thousand wells going up there. In Colorado and Weld County, several thousand wells. Our neighbors to the east in Arkansas, who was one of the first states to stop the fracking because of earthquakes. They have it in the Fayetteville Shale. Here in Oklahoma, we have the Woodford Shale in the Caney, and some fracking going on here. Anyway, what happens with natural gas? We know what happens. If you make a lot of it, the price goes down, okay? So it's a very fragile, very vulnerable market. It's not like oil. Oil is pretty stable. Once you get the price up and stays up, it's very profitable. But with natural gas, when you start flooding the market, the price plummets. Well, there is a period of time where it's profitable to drill natural gas and produce it here in the United States. And it's somewhere above $3 per 1,000 cubic feet. What happened is they flooded the market and the price plummeted. So guess what? They're looking for other customers, and their other customers are places like Japan and China that will buy liquefied petroleum gas that will be refined at our ports, compressed at our ports, put into ocean liners, and taken across the seas. And so if you follow with me, a lot of this natural gas production was sold to the citizens of Dallas and Pennsylvania as energy independence, that we were going to be independent of foreign oil and gas. But that could be the farthest from the truth, because it's really the corporations just want to make the profit. And the profit right now means they can't get $3 per 1,000 cubic feet here, but if they compress it and ship it to Japan, they can get $12 to $14, okay? It costs them $8 to get there. Are you with me? So that's where they're going. The pipelines are taking it to the coast, not to the users. Not all of it, but a good percentage of it, if you follow my drift. So what happens is we're not energy independent. What's the other side of the coin? Lots of leases were gathered in the Marcellus Shale region and other shale regions before anybody knew what was going on. The landmen went out and got the leases. These leases from like Chesapeake, etc., they get bundled and repackaged and sold. You know, Chesapeake had sold $2 billion worth of leases to China from his Ohio production last year, about another $2 billion to India. And just, you know, in the last 30 days, $2 billion worth of leases from right here in Oklahoma were sold to China. So if you talk about energy independence, how can that be if the leases to the oil and gas belong to another country? Correct? All right? Now, this, I know you guys are smart, I'm speaking to the choir, but you know, you talk to your friends, you tell your friends, you get on Facebook and you spread the word, because this is a farce. This is like, they steal the value of the word. They steal the value of the word energy independence. What does that mean? It doesn't mean anything to them, but to us it's supposed to pull our heartstrings, right? Meanwhile, we'll just talk about shale gas, they have to drill significantly more wells, and they have to drill them significantly closer than what we're used to with oil and gas. So, and this shale is everywhere, in cities, etc. I mean, I was down working with some citizens trying to get some ordinance in Dallas, the city of Dallas, to get an ordinance to prevent them from fracking within the city limits of Dallas. But unfortunately, the city of Dallas had already signed their lease for $35 million, and so they were stuck and just trying to, put a Band-Aid on a gaping wound. And the citizens were brave enough to try to get some good information in front of them for an ordinance. Well, what happens when you do write a good ordinance, like a city ordinance or township ordinance or county ordinance, trying to protect public health and the environment by setbacks to people's houses, setbacks to property, or different ways of keeping the air pollution and the water pollution away from people's water wells, away from their homes and their children. As soon as you're successful in passing an ordinance, the industry is going to go straight to the state capitol, all right? Because they're not going to fool around with your county commissioners. They're going to go straight to the state capitol and basically make it illegal to have a local ordinance. And if you think I'm just CTing you, that's going on right now in Pennsylvania. Okay, Act 13, which is in court system, basically took away the rights of all of Pennsylvania to write local ordinances to create new setbacks to the shale gas wells. All right, this is 90,000 wells. So we have to learn from that. So even though it seems like it's Pennsylvania, it's a long ways away, who gives a crap? Pennsylvania produces a lot of dairy, right? And New York is right next to them. So the shale gas production in Pennsylvania is in the north part of the state and some of the south, but right across the border to New York, what they call the southern tier, where New York has had a moratorium for the past year and a half, that is where the gas companies want to go next, okay, into these like pristine forests. And they want to shave down the forest, they want to put these huge pads. I think I have some pictures that maybe some of you can see. And what they want to do is they want to frack shale gas in this huge watershed that has no other pollution in it, this huge forest that creates all of the clean water for places like Manhattan and New Jersey. And okay. But guess what else we have from New York is the dairy industry. You know, all that new yogurt that you see in your grocery stores, you go, where did all this yogurt come from, all this Greek yogurt? That all comes from places like Wisconsin and New York, where dairy farmers, small dairy farmers, are trying to use their groundwater to create milk to make yogurt for us to buy here in Norman, right? If their groundwater is contaminated by fracking fluid, who's going to suffer? All right? Right? Because do you think the food companies are going to stop it? Right? Do you think the people who buy the milk are going to stop it? Do you think the poor farmer, who all he's got in his life is 100 or 200 cows to make milk, can he stop it? No. It has to be all of us, okay, on the consumer end. We have to demand that our food system is protected from the tar sands being piped all the way across our Ogallala to shale gas fracking happening in every single agricultural environment you can possibly imagine. And one last note, I don't know where I am on my time. Am I still talking? I'm good. Well, I want to talk a little bit about the Ogallala in Nebraska. You know, when I was fighting CAFOs up there, I learned a lot about the amazing part of the Ogallala. We have a small part of it here in the Panhandle. There's a little bit in Texas. But it goes up through Kansas and Nebraska. It's the largest freshwater aquifer in the United States. In Nebraska, it's 600-foot saturated thickness. It's the most amazing thing you've ever heard of. Anybody who's got relatives in the Panhandle knows that our Ogallala is maybe 100, 200-foot saturated thickness. We lose it a lot from irrigation. But Nebraska is this amazing treasure for all of us, right? You cannot ever replace this amazing treasure, and they wanted to put that pipeline right straight down the middle of it. Now, they made them veer around it, but seriously, this is the idiocy of the original idea was, it's like they didn't even know whose china closet they rode their bulls through. They just have no concept of the fragility of some of our environment and no compassion to engineer away from it. Are you with me? So it's people like you, people like me, we out there every day, knocking on doors, asking people to sign little pieces of paper, send $1 or $2. Everybody do that. Everybody take a part. You know, when we get frustrated and we don't like how somebody does something, we just breathe and hug each other, because together we'll just barely make it. You know, we're fighting billion and trillion dollar corporations. We have no time to be lackadaisical. We have no time to say, do it tomorrow. We have to do something every day. Are you with me?
Yeah!
Awesome. Okay, now, they're going to let me talk forever. One more thing about fracking and food. If you go online, I want you to read, there's a couple of journal articles. One is by Dr. Michelle Baumbarger. She just recently came up with a peer-reviewed journal article about how fracking has affected groundwater and affected animals. So this is peer-reviewed science. I would like you to go and read about some of the earthquakes associated with fracking in Oklahoma, Arkansas, Ohio, England, Canada. It's everywhere. It's not just somebody's imagination. I would like you to go see the movie Gasland, read about some of the people, the families that are in that movie. These are families that have no way to leave their home, but their home is full of gas. Their children are sick. Their water, you know, whether or not it lights on fire or not is really besides the point. Their water is in jeopardy. Their towns are completely taken over by the oil and gas industry, where you can stand on a street corner and the trucks just are constantly going by. The oil and gas industry comes from out of town. They didn't hire from within the state, such as in Pennsylvania. So all the motels filled up. Before you know it, people who rented apartments and stuff were booted out because the oil and gas industry paid more. So people who work there, are we done? Oh, we don't need mine. We wrote long past it. People who live there and work there are booted out of their apartments. They can't afford to live. Can you imagine that? So the rent went from like $400 a month to $1,500 a month. These are the kinds of things that are happening that don't get in the news, but they're indeed happening. The roads are completely torn up. Any of you who live out in the counties outside of the city limits know that there's a limited budget for road repair, and if you have 18-wheelers going constantly up and down, how many tanker trucks do you think it takes to bring 40 million gallons of water to one well site? 800, 1,000, 2,000 trucks? Can you imagine how psychotic that is? There's videos of it on the internet. Don't take my word for it. Go look for yourself. And then, I'm done. No, it's fine.
Okay.
I don't need this slideshow. No? Oh, no, I don't think they can see it either way. I had some pictures of some oil and gas, but I think I painted a good enough picture. I'm done talking.
Thank you. Yes. Speak.